I sat among the rich and powerful for breakfast, and it was eye-opening. TLDR at the bottom. The other morning, I attended a breakfast. I was originally led to believe that it was a networking event run by a nonprofit that teaches youth entrepreneurship skills. For context, while my father was somewhat wealthy, I had a very ordinary childhood. My mother and father co-parented me as a middle-class kid. I attend public school and work minimum wage at a fast food restaurant. I'm now a senior in high school. I wasn't spoiled or showered with money, and never really lived a life of luxury. So that morning I arrived, found out that this networking event was in fact not that, and that this was actually a fundraising event, meaning that the entire room in this 5-star hotel was filled with some of the richest and most influential people in my province. The morning started with a breakfast. The food was fantastic, and there were literal butlers. Yes, really, serving it. Once we had all eaten, there was a panel relating to the green economy with 5 panelists. 4 were higher-ups at smaller firms, from carbon capture startups to recycling companies. In an incredibly ironic twist, the 5th panelist was the national GM of renewables and energy solutions, from our old pal Shell. You just read that right. An oil and gas executive on an environmental panel. While I was at my table during the breakfast and panel, I heard the wealthy and rich talk, and I frankly had to do a double take. They dropped astonishingly high numbers left and right. 6, 7 and 8-figure numbers were mentioned casually, almost as if such a sum was an insignificant trifle. It was as if they were in a different world, isolated from the reality that 99% of us face. These are our bosses, the presidents and the chairpeople that we work for, that have the power to make changes in their companies and the world. Yet they live in such a different world that is so separated from the rest of us that they can never really understand the world around them. Witnessing this has taught me several things. When I have children, I too must raise them not as spoiled brats but as an average middle-class family. More importantly, however, it showed me that because these people do not experience the same life that we do, they cannot walk in our shoes, and are therefore incapable of making the systemic changes necessary to reduce inequality. To drive this point home with irony, after leaving the rich behind in their 5-star hotel, I got on public transit and commuted back to school for an hour. I had a shift at work later that day for $16 an hour. A far cry away from those 8-figure sums I'd been hearing about just their morning. TLDR. Rich PPL live on practically a different planet, and can't change because of it. They do live in a different world. I witnessed a company worth hundreds of millions get sold for assets and thousands of people laid off in the blink of an eye. Like it was a normal day for these people. And it was normal for them. I get this. I grew up really poor in a very poor region of America. Coal country. My parents grew up very poor, and so did their parents. Poverty is about the only inheritance we've had for generations in my family. Then when I was in my late teens, my mother married a legit millionaire. She was rocketed into a completely different lifestyle. I didn't really experience this as much because after high school, my mom and I didn't talk much. But now, 20 years later, she's like a completely different person. A couple years ago, when her cleaning person told her that she was very tired because she was doing all the cooking for her daughter's graduation, my mom actually suggested that she just get it catered. A couple months ago, she was complaining on Facebook about a $5,000 pillow that she bought. If you tell her that the reason you're not doing something is because you can't afford it, she rolls her eyes. But then you can't correct her either when she does this entitled shit, because she just counters with that she used to be poor, so of course she understands what it's like. She's one of those blissfully unaware boomers who seem to be physically incapable of examining their behavior critically, and anyone else who does it is attacking them. I think the scale and magnitude of wealth needs to be explained, just to further drive this point home that rich people are detached from reality. Consider a child buying a cheap chocolate bar for 10 cents. Out of $1, it is 10% of their wealth. Out of their $10 allowance, it is 1%. And out of their birthday gift money, it is 0.1% or 1,000th of their wealth. That child grows into a teen and starts working. They get a monthly pay of $1,000. That same chocolate bar is now 0.01% of their wealth. To them, the cost is so insignificant it doesn't matter. Now let's ramp those numbers up by 1000x. A millionaire can casually drop $100 on lunch because they have so much money. A millionaire can drop $1,000 on a new outfit that they will only wear once to a party because they can. Crank it up again. A billionaire can buy a car outright like it's nothing. A house can be bought for $500,000 like it's a Subway sandwich. They can drop $5,000 tips like it's going out of fashion because to them, it is pennies. When we get to Bezos levels of money, the amount of inconsequential spending becomes incredulous. Food at this level costs a penny per meal. And this is for expensive $1,000 steaks from gourmet restaurants in New York, or fine dining in a Parisian bistro. A car costs a single dollar. And a house costs 10. You want a mansion? Drop $100. Hell, you want a jet? $2,000. This is spending for the sake of spending. Bigwigs, CEOs and trillionaires have more money than they know what to do with. And this kind of spending is what separates them from the rest of society. They have no concept of poor. They have no concept of breadline. These people cannot possibly understand the struggles of everyday people because of this privilege. Oh, anyone who wants a glimpse at how rich assholes spend their money, I recommend a job in catering. A few events with high-profile clients ought to give you a little perspective. This is why protests and letters will not work. These people are so disconnected by multi-generational affluence that they are truly incapable of empathy and understanding. As you say, all they know is their butler wiping their ass for them. As you alluded to, only by forcing the issue do we have any chance. Different planet? Try a different reality altogether. This is not a new phenomenon. The wealthy have always had little to no regard for the poor and even middle class within society. We look at the Musks, Gates, Bezoses of the world and scorn them for their exploits. Buying a social media platform, building a spacecraft in the shape of a penis, etc. One of this is new. Go back and look at the Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan, Vanderbilt families. Hell, Andrew Carnegie did his philanthropic work at a time of great economic growth and I'll still lay dollars to donuts that it was not a completely selfless act. And these guys are just the ones here in the US. I'm sure the rest of the world has plenty more examples to choose from. This is not me defending these characters. Far from it. These men and a few women, these captains of industry, they are all guilty of, at the very least, of being completely out of touch with reality. And at worst, nefarious and evil money-grubbing parasites. I personally think it's somewhere in the middle. I guess my point to it all is this is nothing new. My partner and I grew up in very different tax brackets. I've noticed the same thing talking to everyone he is related to. They all hate poor people. Sometimes I can't believe they say the things they do to me. Unknowingly, I don't talk about my childhood. I had to explain to his sister why it was rude to comment when I wore her old clothes. They cleaned out her childhood closet. Like designer shit was about to head to Goodwill. I have zero issue with hand-me-downs as I grew up on them. Took advantage of getting some clothes I would otherwise not buy, because she would make condescending comments about it around people and I would get embarrassed. His mom buys a new car every year. She gives terrible advice about jobs because she comes from old money. I think she has only worked as a professional. I've never once heard her talking about working a normal job. She penny pinches about weird things though. Like she'll book a flight on Frontier if it will save her $2 but takes an additional 5 hours to get where she wants to. His dad was poor growing up but hasn't been in a very long time. Spends money like crazy. My partner was unemployed for a year because of the pandemic. He put out over 1,000 applications. They were still convinced he wasn't getting a job because he grew out his beard and was vocal on FB with his political opinions. His Facebook is completely private and he only got a small handful of interviews during this time. They couldn't fathom that the job market was that competitive. If you don't have some sort of specialized job or a real job, they don't respect you. We were lucky enough to start 2 businesses in the last year that I run instead of working. I'm constantly asked when I'll be getting a job. It's gotten to the point that I don't even answer when they ask. They are in a different world. My partner and I are probably the only truly middle-class people they associate with. Their rules are different. The way their money operates is different. They have no idea how people can't budget their way out of poverty anymore. Back in the 50s, if you were the CEO of a factory in Middle America, your kids still played baseball with the kids of folks who worked in your factory. You attended the same church as your employees. These days the separation is real. Yeah, we are having a hard time overcoming individualism to be able to really thrive as a species. I think your takeaway is right and good. We have to unite if we want change. Don't forget, there is some invisible line across society. Above you find 99% of money. Below you find 99% of people. And their votes. But PSSH. Up you seem to be under the impression that the rich and corporations actually care about the environment. They actually don't. They are merely feigning interest in it to increase their ESG score so they can get more loans from banks and more investors to pile money into their companies. Same reason they promote woke agendas like equality. Now they promote equity. Again, they actually don't care about it. Just pretending to get a higher ESG score that they hope will translate into more money for them. For those that might say ESG score is a right-wing conspiracy, just Google it and do some research and make up your own mind. You have to ask yourself whether soulless companies promoting all this feel-good stuff is a bit contrived or not. I urge people in this sub to read Plutocrats by Chrystia Freeland. These people live a life that you can't possibly imagine. They are truly free in ways that almost no one is. And they will never willingly give that up. Border and laws mean nothing to them. Those are for everyone else. No, think about the fact that there are people so wealthy they live in an entirely different world than even these people you met. So wealthy they casually talk about dropping $54 billion to buy a company. People who have literally zero consequences from breaking the law. These people have millions of followers that literally worship them as if they were a deity. Who told you that was a networking event? Your dad. It kind of is for rich people. The national GM of Renewables and Energy Solutions, from our old pal Shell. You just read that right. An oil and gas executive on an environmental panel. Oh yeah, Shell has a big biodiesel division that they're pumping a lot of money into. I had the misfortune of working for the engineering company that was providing a lot of the engineering and design to Shell to develop these plants. Shell isn't stupid. They realize that oil and gas can't last forever. They're here to do one thing, and that's make money. They're going to make as many dollars off oil as they can, and when we can't pump any more of it out of the ground, they'll be ready with their technologies to convert waste and corn and whatever else into fuels. They know what's coming, because they are the ones orchestrating it. So what? It was eye-opening for you that rich and powerful people deal with large sums of money. You're in high school and making $16 an hour? Sounds like you are doing better than most Americans with a college degree. I am currently in deep poverty. I've been here before, so I know the lay of the land. There is nothing like knowing exactly how many pennies you have in your pocket, and how many more days you have to go until you get money for food. And listening to people humble brag from real conversations. I don't have a lot of money right now. I just spent $500 per tire on my Jeep. I not only replaced all 4 tires, but the spare on the back as well. I might not have enough to get to the end of the month. I'll have to dip into my accounts and cash out one of my remaining 15 T-bonds early, meaning penalties. I'm so poor. Worse is listening to a group of them do this to each other and commiserate with how poor they are. I'm going to have to go to a deep discount store to shop at this afternoon. I'm so embarrassed to be seen in JCPenney. In my work I visit a lot of offices. One small firm I visited, I happened to overhear one end of a phone conversation with an obviously very annoying and irritating client. The person who took the call was obviously agitated, and after managing to finish it she was all like, "That guy is so frustrating," and needed to calm down a bit. The 2 managers, owners of the business, came over, inquired who it was, and they checked out the client. How much was he worth to them? Something like a $100K, but they immediately dropped the client because it wasn't worth the hassle. I thought to myself that it would be nice to be in such a good state of economy that you can drop a $100K per year client like a hot potato just because they're an asshole.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.